Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Elon Musk is warning about a potential recession. He's got a really bad feeling about the economy. We also have a corporation for the reliability of electric in North America saying that the West is most likely going to have blackouts. We have a lot of news on the shortage of food. Remember, the preppers were right. Let's get started. So overall for the week, the major kind of overarching news item that affected most of the markets and kind of what everybody's talking about is the jobs report. We have a situation where the job report wasn't good, and it's starting to alarm investors about the possibility of having what's called a stagflation economy, where we have a stagnant economy with high inflation, which the last time we've had that, if I'm not mistaken, which is in the late 70s, early 80s, and we're literally, seems like we're walking into that again, because now there's a lot of warning signs. There's some flags that are starting to show up where it's telling us that the economy isn't doing well, I should say. And one of those indicators is Elon Musk saying that he's laying off 10% of his workforce at Tesla due to the fact that he has a, quote, very bad feeling, unquote, about the economy. And he even said, I have it in my notes here, on Wednesday he tweeted that recessions serve as a vital economic cleansing function for the economy. And I thought this was a really good kind of plug-in to be able to describe to you guys what has happened over the last, 20 years, 25 years, where the governments around the world just haven't allowed this cleansing process to take place. And obviously it's called an economic contraction or recession. Anytime we have a financial crisis, that's due to the bubbles that are created by essentially us, right? So let's go back years and years ago to 1999, where we had a hedge fund collapse called long-term capital management. This was during the tech boom. There was literally a bubble that bursted in the tech bubble, and instead of allowing this hedge fund to fail, what all the bankers decided to do is spread the risk across many different banks throughout the US and also Europe. So instead of having the system cleanse itself, right, just kind of get the trash, just take out the trash in the economy, they saved it. So then 10 years later, the bubbles continue to grow, the trash never gets taken out, starts to stink at home, right? And then we had the 2008 and 2009 crisis, which was a financial crisis of epic proportions where literally the financial system was this close to literally collapsing. So what did the governments do? They allowed the economy to take its course. You know, a country like Iceland, for example, allowed the banks to fail. They just allowed them to fail. They recovered. The economy continued to grow. They took the trash out. Well, in the West, we didn't take the trash out. They doubled down on low interest rates. They dropped interest rates to the lowest in recorded history. They injected capital into the economy, literally just poof, inflating money out of thin air and putting it into the economy, and they created another bubble. So now, 2020, during COVID, when the economy was starting to look like it was shifting, COVID hit, and then they doubled down on the money printing. And now we have a situation where in the United States, for example, it's in all countries, but I'm going to give you the United States because I remember these off the top of my head. There are 40% more dollars in circulation today than there was before COVID. 40%. And that is continuing to grow with the 40 billion extra we're giving to Ukraine and all this extra money that we're printing for all other kinds of things. And so it's not a very good situation. And so what's going to happen is we're now in the mother of all bubbles, literally the bubble of bubbles, right? And when this actually crashes, it's going to be very painful because, one, most of us have never lived through a recession, right? Because many of you guys that are watching that are 20 or 25 or maybe even 30 years old, you don't even know what a recession is. There's been all this free money where you buy pictures of bored apes, monkey gifs in the internet for millions of dollars, and you think you're investing. That's what happens, right? We start speculating because money is easy to come by. people look for riskier and riskier assets to be able to invest in, to be able to get a return on the investment, because the interest rates are so low, they can't put their money in quote unquote secure places that were secure before. So that's kind of the overall dynamic, let's say, that we're in. Now, overall for the week, the U.S. markets were mostly negative. Only exception to that was Canada, which went up by 0.10%. Overseas market news, the European markets were mostly lower outside of Istanbul, which I don't know if I would really consider them Europe, but it is an emerging market. They were the only ones that were positive. Africa and the Middle East, mostly mixed. Latin American markets also mixed. And then in the far, far east, Asia, Australia, that entire area, they were mostly actually positive, with the Nikkei in Japan the most positive of all. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency news. I mentioned to you guys last week the epic investor and entrepreneur that started Luna, which was the Terra crypto that collapsed, literally just went to zero, decided to launch another crypto, and I believe I talked to you guys about this last week. He launched a new crypto and it literally collapsed over 80% on the first day. So if you're going to invest, just be careful out there, because obviously there was another crypto that literally got halted and it collapsed as well. I mean, outside of the fact that all cryptos are pretty much collapsing now, right? Solana, which was supposedly the Ethereum killer, which if you guys aren't in the crypto space, Ethereum is the second largest crypto in the crypto space. They were saying that Solana was going to overtake Ethereum. It was the Ethereum killer. Well, they had to shut down the Solana network due to the fact that there was a quote-unquote bug in the system, and they shut it down for over 4 hours. So we're starting to see some red flags kind of here and there when it comes to the Bitcoin space. And it's always like I told you guys before. Bitcoin, cryptos are going to go up, they're going to go down. I have no doubt in my mind that it'll most likely make another record high. But just be careful. Don't put all your money in one of these cryptos thinking that you're going to make money tomorrow, $1 million. Because if it was that easy, we would have crypto millionaires all over the place. And so it's not that you can't make money with crypto, it's just that you have to be careful because it isn't regulated and there's a lot more funny business going on. Speaking of funny business, one of the things I thought was really interesting that I thought I'd share with you guys is the fact that there are 8 billion people in the world, 7 and change, and there are 10 billion NFTs that are actually being sold. So we have a very small group of the population chasing a ton of just fake images online, super bubble. And OpenC, which is the biggest company that was selling the NFTs by market share, remember that the volume of the sale of NFTs have collapsed over 90%, but OpenC, an executive, was arrested due to the fact that he was front-running the NFTs that were going to be listed on the homepage of the OpenC platform before the price surge to be able to make more money on his own. So he would buy them right before it happened, they'd be listed on the front page, and then he would make a ton of money because he knew which ones were going to be listed and the ones that were going to explode. Insider trading also happens in NFT world. Other than that, last Saturday there was a $520 million in liquidations. We've had these huge swings in the crypto space recently. 520 million liquidations last Saturday, and of that, half of it was from Ethereum. And overall for the week, Bitcoin higher 3.15% to just under 29,000. It's still negative just over 35% for the year. Commodities, as I told you guys, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, because they need a corporation to tell you how reliable the electric is going to be, is saying now that the 2/3 of the United States face the prospects of blackouts this summer. If you guys remember, we initially talked about this, I believe it was in November of 2020, the year of the pandemic. Now we have a lot more reports in the mainstream media. Remember, the preppers were right. Other than that, we'll put on the conspiracy theory hat here in a second. Don't worry. Other than that, record high gas prices again. I believe the average, if I look at my notes here, if I can find it really quickly, was $4.71. In California, the gas prices have gotten to over $8. I'm just going to give you an example. I drive here in Colombia a 2021 Ford Explorer ST, 400 horsepower. That thing's a rocket, and I drive it like a rocket. When I go to fill up, it literally costs me $35-40. If I were to fill up in the United States, even in Florida, for example, where I grew up and it's a little bit cheaper, it would cost me about $80 or $90 a fill up. Now, double that in California, and it would be costing me $160 to fill up my gas tank. So it's never been a better time to move overseas, even a place like Asia, for example. If you guys can work online, if you guys have, side hustle, do some trading, do some YouTubing, whatever you guys want to do, sell a useless Bored Ape GIF picture online, whatever you guys want to do, probably a good time to start looking for a way to generate some extra income due to the fact that the inflation is most likely going to get worse, and also probably a good way for you guys to think about reducing your costs by traveling. Go to Thailand where you can live on $300 a month, for example, right? Been doing it for, 15 years now? Amazing. Other than that, we have the lumber crashing over 50% from its high. So if you guys are in the market for an upgrade to your home, now would be the time to go ahead and do it. And we also have a situation where labor prices are really high. So a lot of people are saying this is going to be a retracement just for a continuation to the upside. But we do have a situation where the Fed has started to remove the money out of the system and also increase interest rates. And obviously with the market going down, things are going to continue to go up in price due to the fact that even though that they're starting to do that to try to help with the increase in inflation, it's not really helping all that much. China is making sure that the summer wheat harvest is going to go through without a problem. Remember that we have a pretty serious problem with what's called food protectionism, where a lot of countries now are starting to report that they're limiting their exports of certain products. India talked about it for sugar. Malaysia talked about it for chicken. Indonesia talked about it for palm oil, which is pretty important when it comes to cooking worldwide. So now China's getting into the fray where they're saying that they want to make sure and tell the authorities that all of the grain, the wheat that's being grown should be grown without a problem, because obviously if we have more problems in the food supply, we're going to have more food shortages. Conspiracy Marcello is back. The South African mine Gold Fields has bought a huge Canadian company that's going to turn into a $6.7 billion all-share deal where they're going to be the fourth largest miner in the world, and with the increase in production that they're expecting, for those of you guys in the mining space, they're expecting to be the third largest gold miner in the world. U.S. crude went up over 3% to 118.87, while Brent went up to 119.43 for the week, both positive. Oil had its, I have it here, sixth monthly advanced, longest run since 2011. Although OPEC did talk about increasing their production, so that's going to be a good thing. We have a little bit of reprieve coming, hopefully, when it comes to the gas prices, because obviously if there's more production, there's more supply, which means that the prices should, quote unquote, theoretically come down. Precious metals for the week are lower. Gold went down just a little bit, 0.15% to $18.52, while silver went down 1% to $22 even. Inflation news for the week, the Eurozone, Germany, France, Spain, all reaching either record highs or multi-decade highs in inflation. The Eurozone is at 8.1%. University of the Department of Education is saying that it's going to forgive $5.8 billion in outstanding student loans for over 560,000 borrowers. Single largest loan forgiveness action taken by the federal government. And I don't think this is fair to everybody, because I paid off all of my student loans. Busted my butt, worked 2-3 jobs, and now somebody's just gonna have that forgiven. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but obviously college is a scam. It's a complete racket. You don't need a college degree, nor do you need to pay $8 billion a year to be able to go to college anymore and get a good job. So remember, start your hot side hustle. Chase CEO Jamie Dimon is talking about the biggest U.S. bank trying to prepare it for what he considers to be a hurricane on the horizon. He talked about two major things that he was worried about. One, the so-called quantitative tightening that starts this month. They're going to take out $95 billion that they are injecting into the economy, so they're going to start taking that out every month. And in addition to that, the Ukraine war can increase the commodities. For example, oil, he says, could go to $150 to $175 a barrel. So imagine in California, you're paying $8 gas. It could be $10, $12, $15 gas. That's what happens when you live in a socialist republic. Political news. Colombia, they had a runoff for the presidential election. They have a different system that we have where there's a bunch of different parties that run, or a bunch of different people, and if they don't get 50%, they go to a runoff with the first two that got the most votes. So they're going to have a runoff on June 19th. My querida Colombia, I hope you guys vote for the right one. Economic news, the Purchasing Managers Index in China went down for the third straight month, so it's had a contraction. In addition to that, the retail sales in Germany fell by more than expected in April, by 7.7%. And remember, the retail sales implies consumer spending. So you and I going out and spending money. Any industrialized country, any country that has an advanced economy, which means the majority of the world outside of, for example, Africa and a few countries in Asia, the most important part of the economy is always consumer spending. Just to give you an idea, in the United States, it's close to 70%, 70. In a country like Germany, I don't know what the exact number is, but I'm pretty sure it's over 50%. So when the consumer stops spending so much money, that's a significant problem for the economy, because it's a huge chunk of the economy, which shows that inflation is starting to hurt the consumers quite a bit, not only in Germany, but around the world. May's manufacturing PMI in the Eurozone and the UK still showed expansion, but they're expanding at a decreasing rate month over month, which is another red flag about the economy. And then we have private payrolls increased far less than expected. We only had 128,000 compared to the expected 300,000. And in addition to that, total job openings went up to 390,000. The U.S. added 390,000 jobs overall, while the unemployment rate actually stayed the same, but we still have a record number of job openings, which means that people are still investing in apes online and Luna instead of going out and getting a job. Corporate news, Generac, which is the company that produces the electric generators, the backup generators, they went up 10% after UBS, which is a huge bank, talked about they had an 80% upside. Now that conspiracy Marcello coming at you, now that everybody's talking about the blackouts that are coming and the food shortages that are coming, everybody's going out and buying generators to be able to have electricity with gas and things like that. And in trade news, the UN is continuing to work to release the grain that's coming from the Black Sea in the Ukraine, to be able to try to release this food crisis that we have. According to another 3-letter agency in the United Nations department, they're talking about food right now is the highest that it's ever been in history. So again, remember to get your side hustle on. And in the technology, the U.S. Senate is reshaping the tech industry with a potential bill that may become federal law that would prohibit dominant tech firms, Google, Facebook, Meta, all of these guys, from pitching their products ahead of others. So you guys know when you Google something, the Google service comes up first instead of others. Or Amazon, for example, Amazon Basics, buy some toilet paper from us rather than, Charmin or whoever. So that actually may change now if this bill actually comes to pass. And in international events, a woman that was protesting the climate change decided to throw cake at the 1500 masterpiece Mona Lisa in France in the Louvre. Luckily, they had a protecting casing around it, so it didn't get damaged. But as I told you guys before, the next 10 years, we're going to have climate problems, social problems, economic problems. Prepare yourself, because the preppers were right. And other than that, One of the things that was really interesting in the climate, I haven't been sharing a lot of the kind of disasters that have been happening, but in Boston, there was a difference in weather. In 10 minutes, the weather went from 82 degrees to 63 degrees, a difference of 19 degrees in just 10 minutes, which is absolutely unheard of. The preppers are right. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you don't have any questions. Don't forget to leave your hashtag AskMarcello there. I'm going to start probably doing some videos after I get back from this trip. See you next week. Bye.